Hello and welcome back to another SwansCast match preview. Obviously returning after the international break this weekend. There was no football, although saying that, we did have the Swansea women playing and they got a 2-1 win over Wrexham. So if anyone went down to that, let us know how you found that experience. Obviously they don't really play in the Swansea.com very often, so I guess it was a little bit of a nice to fill your football fix if you did miss watching the Swans. But this week we return to action and we are playing Hull City, of course, and I've got Ant here to join me. Ant is from the To Hull and Back podcast, so welcome, Ant.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
That's all right. And this weekend's game obviously is at home on the 25th of the 11th, so 25th of November. 3 o'clock kickoff. Are you going to be making the long journey down? I don't know, it's quite long, isn't it, to drive to Hull?
Yeah, it's a long. I've been to Swansea twice, and we won once and lost once. And there were drives that I said I'd never ever drive myself again.
Don't blame you.
Especially after we've lost. I think the last time I went, we lost 3-1, and Wilfred Burnley did some weird cougar celebration or something like that. But no, I'm not going this weekend. It was a shame because I probably would have done. But I'm quite busy with the kids this weekend, so I'll watch it on iFollow.
I know in the spaces we were in last night, they were saying about the drive the Plymouth fans have to do, but yeah, we know all about that as well down here in southwest Wales, whatever you want to call it. It's quite a distance to quite a few grounds for us. So yeah, it's I don't blame you for not coming. Okay, so let's get cracking. And before we start, do you want to introduce yourself, what your podcast and where we can find you? I know you've already kind of introduced yourself, but.
Yeah, so I obviously I run the To Hull and Back podcast, and I passed over hosting reins not long ago to Nathaniel because I just don't have the time to plan episodes as much as I used to, but I still go on as a guest. But we basically just do, I imagine, the same as you guys. You know, we review the last game, preview the next game. We get opposition fans on. I think you're coming on our show later today,
Yeah.
and you know, we just basically just rant as we all do as fans about our club. And I mean, it's been not so much ranting this season because we're actually doing okay, but yeah, it's been something that we started in lockdown. It was, you know, we couldn't go to the football and talk about footy in the pub anymore, so it was a shall we just do this kind of impromptu thing. And yeah, we've just sort of rolled with it. Like last year we won bronze at the FCAs, we didn't get out this year, but was a finalist. So it's nice to know that the people watching us enjoy, you know, doing this kind of stuff. It keeps you going, kind of thing. And yeah, we enjoy doing it. So if there's any Swansea fans that obviously don't mind seeing, you know, opposition content, and obviously we get Swansea fans on too, head over, give us a follow on Twitter.
Go check them out. Obviously, as you mentioned, there's a show later. I'm not sure whether this will be up before that, so I'll put a link to it in the description anyway for your version of this video, I guess. And yeah, you can go catch everything. Obviously, we'll ask some questions here. We'll get a lot of information about Hull, but there might be some stuff that doesn't get touched on that you can go and check out in that video. I'm sure there'll be plenty more to consume. And congratulations on getting nominated for the finalists of the FCAs as well. We tried this year. We didn't quite get there, but you know, maybe next year we'll try it again. But
yeah, definitely keep trying. I mean, because we literally last year we the first year we did the pod, we never even, you know, sort of pushed the votes thing. Last year we just said, should we just do it and see what happens? And look, mate, we did. And somehow when we sat at the table and they announced the winners and they said that we'd got bronze, you know, we just sat there and you just kind of like,
yeah,
how?
Unreal.
So, I mean, take that chance and just keep doing it, mate. You'll eventually get there.
Well, congratulations again.
Cheers.
Okay, let's get into the content then, I guess. And I like to roll these videos because it's obviously the first match we played each other this season. But it's getting towards Christmas, so I guess the questions will change soon when it comes to the second half of the season. But we're going to roll back to the summer, and I want to ask about your club, and not players first. We'll go on to players in a second. But has there been any change at the club over the summer, whether that's management level or higher or anything like that? Anything that's changed? And maybe there hasn't been, but...
At the club, in terms of hierarchy, ownership, management, no. We've kind of just, obviously the new owners came in a couple of years ago. This is their second full season now as owners. Last year we went a bit gung-ho with signings and that in summer, spent a lot of money, maybe had the wrong manager, and obviously we changed to Rosinia last season. But since that appointment now, the whole club, the whole, you know, feel-good factor, everything that, you know, we'd lost in the years before under the previous regime's kind of back. So it's a very positive atmosphere. You know, it's very... on the up. We feel like they're all going in the same direction. And I guess the only major thing about our owner, and it's not necessarily related to us, was that he went and bought a club in Ireland. It was Shelbourne, and he kind of, I think he wanted to have a club where we could send some of our young players out on loan, but also sign overseas players to get around sort of the Brexit transfer changes that happened, and he was only there a few months and he's already gone. He's given away he paid 3 million, I think, for majority shares, and he's not even asked for that back. He's just gone. I think it was he wanted to change the manager and go up and play similar football to what Rosinia's doing here, and they didn't want Duff to go. So he just said, look, okay, that's fine. Have your club back and have a good future. So yeah, that was a bit bizarre. But yeah, it doesn't really affect us. We had players there out on loan, but they've come back now because their season's finished. So I guess that kind of chapter's over. But yeah, no, we're going good.
That's a very interesting one. What club was that, did you say?
Shelbourne.
Fair enough. What level is that then? Irish Prem?
Yeah, it's the highest level of Ireland. Yeah, they could. I think they've finished in the Europa League because they've won a trophy or something. So they'll be in the Europe next season. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, very interested for an owner to go in and then just kind of be like, okay, bye, and keep the money.
I mean, he could have. I mean, in history with football owners, especially. I mean, this just kind of shows what kind of guy he is. He wanted to go there and sort of change the vision and move the club like he has with us, and the fans and the other owners, that had minority stakes in the club didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep the manager they all like, and they wanted to go in the direction they were going. So rather than, battening the hatches down and saying, right, give me my money back then and I'm off, he's just gone, that's fine. I don't want my 3 million back. Like I said, just go back to as you were and I'll see you later. So, yeah.
You think you would have maybe had those conversations before putting the money in, though? That's the only thing, isn't it? I guess. But there we go. Things happen.
He's very I've got the word. He's very impulsive. Is Adrian? Yeah, he's got. If he gets a vision of something that he wants to do, he'll go and do it 100 miles an hour. And I think he's learning as he's a football owner that maybe you need to tone it down a bit. But he is looking at another club, I think, now over in Greece or something like that. So it might not be over yet.
Try again.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Same question then, but let's move on to maybe the players. And I know there's one that stands out, and that is Phil O'Gene, of course. So, yeah, transfers in and out the season, notable ones that you would like to mention.
I feel like Liam Delap was one that a lot of the league will have looked at and said, that's not that impressive. And even us as fans, when we signed him, you're thinking, is that the kind of right signing we want to be looking for? Last season, our biggest problem was scoring goals. And we signed a striker who scored, I think, 4 last season for 2 different clubs. Stoke and Preston he was on loan at. And, he's come in this season and what a player. Wow. His hold-up play and his ability to just sort of spin the defender and he runs at defences is absolute nightmare. And I think he's going to be one of those under the radar signings. Tyler Morton's come in from Liverpool on loan and he's absolutely brilliant in the middle along with Seri with that possession style that we want to play. We had a high-profile signing in Ruben Vinagre, left-back. Obviously, he won the title with Wolves. He's played in the Premier League for Wolves and Everton. He's been at Sporting Lisbon. Thought, he's going to bury it home at this level. It's been absolutely terrible. So, he's been a problem. Left-back's a real issue for us. We're playing Jacob Greaves out there, and he's naturally a centre-back. So that kind of just shows how our left-back troubles are going at the minute. But outgoings, the probably most major one for us was obviously last season's top scorer, Oscar Estepinian. He just kind of maybe doesn't fit Rosinia's system. Now he's a goal poacher. That is literally what he is. He doesn't offer you much in terms of hold-up play. He doesn't do link-up play very well. He's not gifted with the ball at his feet. But in a similar vein to like Gary Lineker's of the world, where they just literally hang around in the 16-yard area, and if the ball drops to them, it's going in the net. That's what he was. And obviously with this new style of play that Rosinia wants us to, build out from the back, slow build-up, short passing, he just didn't fit it, unfortunately, especially not as a lone striker. So, it was a surprising one that he went out, and especially now in games where we've had, games like Plymouth at home, like my mind goes straight to where we had chance after chance after chance, and the conversion rate's not been that brilliant. And you're thinking, if we had a certain Colombian up forward that game, we'd probably have won that game. But no, you've got to believe in the vision, haven't you? So that was a bizarre one. But and other than that, Phil O'Gene's definitely the standout for us. What a player. Shouldn't be in this league. Far too good.
That's not what we want to hear. But those comments about the striker sound very similar to some of Swansea fans' views on Jerry Yates at the moment in regards to how he's being, used, he's not able to get into games, but maybe what he offers is that goal scoring, poaching sort of traits, but we can't get the ball to him, so we're not really seeing much there at the moment. Bit of a debatable topic, that one, but yeah, let's move forward then. Quite a few transfers there to talk over. You mentioned some other players too. I just want to talk about then your style of play. You said about the likes of Seri playing in the middle to keep the ball and play the possession game you like to play. So yeah, is that what we can expect to see away from home now this weekend, or are you going to maybe look to sort of set up different against Swansea?
No, he sets up the same every game. Is if Rosini has shown anything in his short managerial career so far, it's that he has a way of playing and he will stick to it. He sometimes obviously varies it, judging on the game itself. We'll start playing the same way every game, and then we'll change it up as needs be, depending on the situation of the game. If we're 1-0 up, or if we're 1-0 down, or we're drawing and we really want to win, he switches it up in that sense. So it's nice to see a proactive manager for once, because we're used to having very reactive, and that's not brilliant. But no, he does. He likes to play out from the back. We put a lot of focus on trying to get a goalkeeper in that was good with the ball at his feet. Allsop's come in. I mean, that is one I forgot on the transfers, to be fair. He's come in and been absolutely fantastic. I think he's had 3 man of the matches so far since coming in, and he's a goalkeeper. He just gives us that extra, option when we're trying to play out, when the centre backs have got the ball and teams are trying to press us high. With Ingram, he wasn't very good at doing it, so we kind of got, we'd lose the ball or we'd probably concede from it. Whereas with Allsop, he's very cool, calm, and he knows exactly his distribution is very good, so we can kind of get out of those presses quick and then hit teams on the counter, which is where we do best. We like it when teams come and play at us. If you sit deep, we will struggle. We tend to get to the final third and then just kind of, because we've got a very young team as well, the decision making is quite poor. But if a team comes and tries to play at us and tries to, attack us full front, we're very good on the counter. That's exactly how we want teams to play. It's why we're struggling at home this season. We've only got the 2 wins at home. Oh, is it? Yeah, it's 2? No, 3 wins now, sorry. 2 wins on the bounce. But we're not scoring many at home. With the 2 1-0 wins recently, and we were struggling before that. It's because teams are coming back and giving us, a lot of respect, which we're not used to. And they were sitting very deep and we were struggling to break them down. Whereas away from home, like you say, the impetus is on a home side to come at us, and we were doing very well away from home. So we're possibly a better team away, which is probably not good news for you guys.
No, it's quite funny to hear you say all of that, because when I come on your video later, I might just copy and paste word for word exactly what you just said, but change Swansea and Hull around, and it suits the narrative exactly the same.
It's funny you say that, because I feel like, obviously now that we've got Rosino and play this style of play, we're very similar clubs, but I feel like even from, because I remember being a kid and Swansea being in the bottom league with us, and you guys staying up. I believe you beat us to stay.
That's a famous game down here. That's a very famous game.
Yeah.
You down here that day, yeah. So you were part of the celebrations. Well, there we go. So when people talk about it, I think 2003, I want to say.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And then obviously we both sort of risen through the leagues and both experienced Premier League football and that kind of stuff. And I think we're very similar size, and I've always found Swansea a very similar club to us. So it's funny. It's funny now that it's sort of come full circle. We could probably just word for word each other on the previews. But yeah, it should be a good game, to be fair.
Honestly, it's the same. We're struggling a bit at home, but because, like, for example, we recently lost to Watford in the first half. They sat back. We couldn't really do much. Second half, when they came out a bit, we got caught off them because they weren't doing any of that in the first half. We couldn't break them down, and then it kind of turned up in the second half, and I think we got caught off guard. We went away to Ipswich, and as much as we didn't have the best game, we scored 2 goals up there. Just struggling a bit, breaking teams down. So if you're coming at us and we're coming at you, you'd think on paper it's an exciting game, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, the thing as well, the worry was, and we played, like, obviously with Southampton, with Russell Martin, obviously you'll know, his style of play is very, very possession-based, and we thought, when we played Southampton at home, that it was going to be an absolute ball fest of 2 teams just passing it around the back four for 90 minutes. We couldn't have been further from the truth. That was easily the most exciting game we've had at home all season. I mean, we beat Sheffield Wednesday 4-2, but they were poor. But Southampton, it was end-to-end. What a game of football. So hopefully it's similar.
Yeah. I'd imagine they're very open then, was it, if you're both playing that style of play?
Yeah,
maybe
definitely.
it could be like that. Duff has showed us up a little bit more than what Russell Martin, and I say showed us up, doesn't necessarily mean we conceding less, but it's not as open or it's not as possession based. He wants a little bit more directness. So there is differences. We're not going to get the same stats in terms of like 70% possession at home. We won't be getting that, for example. So if your possession if you style as possession game as well, you could well get more possession than us, even though we're the home team. That's the way that Duff's style has changed us slightly. But it would be interesting to see who does come out on top if it's very similar styles. You look to be setting up with a 4-2-3-1, which I'll go on to ask a little bit more about that in a second. But yeah, we probably match that as well. So it will be pretty much like for like and see who can do the job on the pitch. I think we do need to get a win at home, personally. So we were unlucky in the last one against Sunderland, had a bit of a rubbish red card. We were talking about the referee and being poor in this league in last night's Twitter space. There's a very, very good example in that game. Bobby Madley sending Charlie Patino off for 2 yellow cards that the referee and association later came out and said neither was a yellow card. So that makes you feel better, doesn't it? But he's back for this game, luckily. But yeah, tell me about your formation then. You said about your style. So you're expecting to stick for the 4-2-3-1, I'd imagine, and then maybe some of the players you expect that will definitely start.
Yeah, so I believe, because I'm not sure what we are injury-wise, I think he said that Regan Slater will be back, which is a massive positive for us because he was fans and players player of the season last year, and he's been out for a few weeks now, and we desperately missed him when he went out the team. He'd scored a couple of goals just before he got injured, which tends to be the pattern of our season at the minute, where we get a couple of good results going. One player tends to stand out, then he gets injured for a few weeks, and we get curtailed. Similar to us, and at the beginning he had 4 goals in his opening 3 games, I think, gets injured. Slater gets a couple of goals, gets injured. Philogene was on a really good run, got injured for a couple of weeks. So it's just one of those seasons for us. But no, the 4-2-3-1 tends to be what we do. That's more or less the out of position formation, because we're very fluid in what we do. What Rosenior does that I really like is we're different on the ball and off the ball. So when we've got the ball, with obviously Greaves as a centre half playing left back, I mean, he can do that sort of Dan Burn bombardiering left back, 6 foot whatever he is, run down the side. He's capable of that, but we tend to let him drop deep, and we become a back 3 with Greaves, McLaughlin, and Jones. And then Louis Coyle, who's playing right back, tends to push on and become essentially a right midfielder. Seri and Morton will sit deep, so that if we need to obviously play the ball across the back 3, they're there as an option to then take it up. And then obviously any of the 3 behind the lap usually, so it tends to be Philogene. Scott Twine is very good in that number 10 role. Not quite got the stats to prove the kind of player he is yet. We're expecting him to have a good second half of the season, hopefully. But no, very exciting player still. So he'll be in that number 10, I think. And then the right wing spot, I think, is the one that's probably going to be the hardest to guess, because we with Lakilo injured, I don't know if he's back. He could put Slater on the left and put Philogene on the right. That's a possibility. Sometimes he puts Delap on the right and Connolly up front. So there is a bit of fluidity. It's good that there's a lot of varied players can play in a lot of positions across that front line, and we can swap the wings to Jayden, because sometimes, I mean, Millwall at home is a good example. If he has, a really good half of football, runs the fullback ragged, they tend to then take that fullback off at half time. And then we swap his side so he can do the same to the other one. But no, it's one of those where, we're off the ball, we'll drop into sort of like a 4-5-1 so that we stay nice and structured and rigid. And then we try and spring on the counter with the wingers. And like I say, Coyle pushes forward and gives us that extra option and try and flood the box with players.
There's one right back in the squad that used to be a Swan, Cyrus Christie. He spent some time here on loan. Would we expect to see him feature?
He at the minute he comes on off the bench, and he's one of those players that this season it's been quite surprising, because first half of last season he was easily our player of the season. Phenomenal going forwards, was scoring goals, creating goals, was really, really good. And then he got a long-term injury in January that ruled him out for the rest of the season. And obviously he's now in his 30s, isn't he? And the recovery is a lot slower. Yeah, he's not seemed to have come back the same player. He seems to have lost a couple of yards of pace. He tends to struggle to get up and down the line as much, and Louis Coyle's kind of gone the other direction. He's improved, so Coyle's forced his way as the starting right back now, and Christie tends to come on either for Coyle, or if we swap Coyle to left back and then put Christie in at right back, or we sometimes put him on as a right winger just to sort of give us a bit more defensive solidity if we're trying to protect the lead, for example. But no, he does tend to come on off the bench. I'd be surprised if he started. But no, I'm hoping that the Cyrus Christie of last season at the beginning is still in there somewhere, and we can see him at some point.
There we go. Fair enough. I think I know the answer to this one. What's the key player the Swansea fans should be aware of going into this game?
Jaden Philogene. I mean,
Knew he was coming.
He's one of these players, right? That when you've just got no right of signing, especially when you've got teams that have just come down from the Premier League with the amount of riches that they've got and the amount of wages they could offer. He was throughout the summer. Our owner was teasing, and one of the local news correspondents were teasing about this mystery winger that was going for that was going to remain unnamed. Massively exciting talent. Our owner was saying, one of the best young English talents in the game. Proves you don't need to be a big club to sign. So everyone's thinking, who could this be? And then obviously it came out it was Philogene. We bought him for 5 million, and Villa have got a buyback for 15. But that only activates if we're in the same league. So obviously if they get relegated or if we get promoted, and then even if then another team comes in and offers 25, Villa have to match that, and we have to say to them, do you want to pay 25 million for him first? And obviously if they say no, he can go somewhere else. So it's a buyback, but a sort of step off kind of one.
Yeah.
So he is our player. He's not on loan, as some Villa fans will try and tell you. But he's just so exciting. He goes either way. His first thought is when he gets the ball, I'm going to run straight at this fullback. And I know that if I was a fullback, I would be absolutely petrified to play against him because you can't predict where he's going to go. He's added goals to his game this season, which I think he only scored 4 for Cardiff. He's already on 3 for us this season. He scored 4 all last season, so he's already adding that sort of extra bit to his game. I think Rosenior's given him a bit more freedom to express himself. And then with these kind of players that you would, probably label more as flair players, where, he's got a lot of skills in his locker, that kind of thing, gets the fans off the seats kind of player. He actually tracks back and works hard. And I feel like that's because Malcolm Ebiwe we had on loan last season was a player who was supposed to be similar, and we didn't really see much of it. It's because he didn't want to do any work off the ball. And Rosenior's got such high standards in the squad that if you don't work hard off the ball, you will not play. Which is obviously, as a fan, everything you want to hear, because every player in that squad now is going to work hard. They are.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't expect it with Philogene, but he does. He protects that left back so much. He comes back and defends, and then he's more than happy to keep bombing up and down that line all game. His fitness is amazing. So, very exciting player. One that I think a lot of managers will be going into the games against us thinking, right, how do we deal with this guy? A lot of teams have tried to double up on him. A lot of teams just decide to foul him. This is because it's usually the only way. I mean, we are, I think, the most fouled side in the league by about 50, and I think probably most of them are him and Delap. So it just tells you that how direct we are when we get the ball to them on the edge of the box. But yeah, he's very dangerous. Decision making at times can improve, but that's probably his only flaw at the minute. What a player!
The way you're talking about the fouling there reminds me of Adama Traore when he was on fire for Wolves, and there used to be a bet that we used to put on all the time. First player to get booked was whatever wing back he was up against, and he used to come in like 80% of the time. But it sounds scary. And obviously he used to play for Cardiff last year, so I for one hope he has a bit of an off day. I'm sure a lot of other Swans fans will agree with that as well. But we'll have to wait and see. Okay, let me flip the question on you and ask you what Swansea City player worries you the most as a Hull City fan.
I'm actually going to say Yates, because I just feel like, and I mean, it's interesting you say that maybe Swansea are underutilising him at the minute or using him in the wrong way. But he's the kind of player that if you're in a side like Blackpool that didn't create that many chances, didn't win that many games, got relegated, and you still managed, I think it was 17 goals last season.
I think it was like 14 in the league. It might have been a few more if you add in.
Yeah. So to score that amount of goals in a team that don't create that many chances, you're a natural finisher. And I thought that being in a team like Swansea, because obviously everyone's going to miss a player like Pirro. I'm kind of glad he's not out yet for this game. I mean, we have to face him with Leeds, but Yates is the kind of player that if you give service to, he will score goals. And I thought he'd be one of the league's top scorers this season. And he does worry me because I feel like sometimes our defence has a mistake in them. And he's the kind of player that can make us pay for it. I mean, if you look at our most recent game against West Brom a few weeks ago, we lost 3-1. First goal, we literally just gifted it to Matt Phillips. We just turned around, passed it to him, and he just slotted it in. Jerry Yates is going to be one of those players that does that. So we need to keep a close eye on him.
No, he's one of them players is a debatable one in the fan base, divided fans, if you like. He works very hard. He doesn't stop running and trying, but he's playing in the lone striker role, and I'm not quite sure he was originally signed for that. When we started the season, we were playing a wing-back system, 5 at the back, with 2 up top. And obviously he was working with Perot, and that's where most of his league goals have come. I'm not sure whether he's adjusted to be on his own yet that well with the way that we are playing, or we haven't found a way to get him into the games. But we do have some squad deficiencies in our winger areas, and I'm wondering if we invest a bit in that in January, whether we can get more out of Yates. I think there's definitely more to come from him. He does seem to me like a good player, but maybe one that's just not our doing, not getting the best out of him rather than him. I don't want to criticise him, for what he's doing. I don't think it's necessarily lack of effort or anything. It just hasn't quite worked as well as maybe he should have yet, but I think it's just we're not getting the ball to him. I think he only touched the ball like 18 times or something ridiculous either in the last game against Ipswich. So, yeah, just one of them where we need to get more out of, and there's definitely more there to exploit. He's definitely a player that has got potential to definitely score more goals for us. So I hope it does start this weekend, and you are right in what you were saying and with your worries.
Yeah, I mean, he was a player that I really wanted us to go for when you guys obviously went in and got him. I think most of the Championship probably would have taken him.
Yeah.
Still. So, yeah, no, he's obviously a very good player. And like you say, it's only maybe a little bit of tactical tuning and, he'll be firing.
Yeah. Just think he needs someone up there that's going to let him show his strengths. He's not going to necessarily hold the ball up. And maybe the way at the moment that he's a bit isolated up there and needs to do that a bit more than he's showing that he can. So if there's someone else that can take some of that off him, maybe it could work better for him in going forward and in the long term. Yeah. Okay, but that's pretty much all I got for the video. But I'd like to ask a question at the end that's not necessarily football related, but a little bit of fun. And that is, when you go to any ground or any stadium and you could choose any pint or any beverage, what would be your drink of choice that you would like to choose?
I feel like mine will be quite a weird one because I like a course, and I feel like it's not a very popular choice. We've got Efes at ours, and I'm a big fan of Efes, so we
that's
tend to
interesting.
Efes. Yeah, obviously with the Turkish connection to the
yeah.
owner, we brought Efes in the sponsor and everything like that. So at the home ground, I tend to go for an Efes, but I do like a course. I just feel like Carlsberg, Foster's, Carlin, they're all the same.
Yeah.
And course seems to be a little easier, I think.
No, that's fair. No one says Carlsberg, Foster's, or Carlin when I ask this question. Trust me. But
there probably is that one. They just don't dare say it.
Yeah, Efes is like reminds me of going on an all-inclusive holiday to some fancy hotel in Turkey. So I mean, a trip up to Hull on an away day.
Award-winning
all-inclusive to Turkey.
Gran as well. The food that we've got in our ground, it's like restaurant standard. It's amazing. I had the pulled pork thingy box the other game. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Do me a favour then, when you speak to your fans on your podcast, warn them in advance that they're not going to get anything near the same quality when they come down here.
I think they're probably aware.
It's not. We've got some work to do in that area. We've talked about that recently on our podcast, and I think the stadium's missing out. I think that is one of them areas, if clubs are looking at where they can maybe make a bit of money to put back into the club, I think that sort of hospitality side of things. There's some clubs doing it really well and some clubs doing it really poorly. And we're, unfortunately, I think, in the poor category. I just think that's an area that you can get more money to help the club, but also offer a better match day to the fans at the same time. Yeah. So everyone's a winner, But there we go. That's another debate to have maybe down the line. But thanks very much for joining me, Ant. As always, obviously, if anyone wants to go and check that out, I will link in the description of the podcast, which is, I'll get it back up because I did have it on my screen. You can remind us. It's to Hull and Back, isn't it?
Yeah, it's to Hull and Back. It's on Twitter. It's at Hull_and_back. Yeah.
Yeah, my mind went blank for a sec and it came back to me. But yeah, to Hull and Back, there will be another pre-match, same as this sort of video, I guess, but on their channel. I'll link it below. So if you want to get more pre-match content, go check that out. Give them a follow on Twitter, and good luck for the rest of your season.
Cheers, same to you. Obviously after this weekend.
After this weekend. But I hope it all goes well. And may the best possession sort of team win, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we lost the last one to Southampton.
Hopefully it's not a boring 0-0. Because that's always the way with these things when you big them up, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair, Swansea away last season was the worst game of our season. It was when Figueiredo played probably the worst game I've ever seen of a City player, and where he just sort of, I think he had the ball and then sort of dived because our keeper went to go get the ball and he thought it was a Swansea player, and he did an open goal for Swansea to Scotty. Oh, it was horrific. Awful game.
I think Luke Cundle scored that, didn't he?
Yeah, probably. The Figueiredo never played for us again. That was the end.
Was that actually his last game?
Yeah, that was it. That was the end of him as a football player for us, I believe. He might have made a couple of sub appearances later on in the season, but he never started again, I don't think.
Oh, rough that is. But yeah, thank you very much for your time, and I'll chat to you again later, I guess.
Yeah, thank you.